I'm Maya Kopchak, and this is my final paper on my policy analysis on global counterterrorism measures. The foreign policy issue I'll be addressing is how governments respond to terrorism and whether current strategies are effective and sustainable. So terrorism is defined as the use of violence, often against civilians, to achieve political or ideological objectives. Global counterterrorism, or CT policies, often involve surveillance, military force, and international intelligence sharing. This issue is deeply relevant today as governments continue to navigate threats from extremist groups while also facing criticism over the radicalized and expensive nature of their security measures. Slide 2 basically covers the background and historical context. So since 9/11, CT policies have rapidly expanded, especially in the US and across Europe. Laws like the USA Patriot Act greatly increased government's surveillance powers. This global CT infrastructure was built with little oversight and was often justified by fear. However, critics argue that these policies have basically targeted Muslim and Black communities unfairly. Past measures often lacked transparency and failed to address deeper cause of extremism. So if these issues aren't addressed, CT policies may continue to inflame divisions, violate rights, and fail to actually reduce violence in the long term. And then slide 3 is my evaluation criteria. To evaluate the counterterrorism policies, I focused on the 4 main criteria. 1, cost. How economically sustainable is the policy? 2, legality. Does it uphold international law and civil rights? 3, efficiency. Does it actually reduce terrorism threats? And 4, political viability. Can it gain support across government and communities? Key stakeholders include government, security agencies, local minority communities, international partners, and civil rights organizations. And then slide 4 basically covers the literature review and the existing policy assessment. So my review of the academic literature revealed several insights. My first source highlights how radicalized CT policies reduce trust and legitimacy. My second one argues that political repression, not poverty, is the strongest driver of terrorism. And then my third source shows how Germany's response to domestic terrorism in the 70s worked by using legal domestic tools instead of mass crackdowns. So looking at my current policy, we have a heavy focus on surveilling and policing. While politically viable, these methods are costly, they violate rights, and have questionable long-term effectiveness. So slide 5, it covers my alternative policy options. So I basically covered 3 of them. So option 1 would be expand surveillance and policing. Pros would be quick response, visible deterrent. Cons, high cost, right violations, and risk of radicalizing communities. And then option 2 would be community-led de-radicalization programs. Pros of that would be address root causes, builds trust, and it's lower cost. The cons would be slower impact, needs cultural competence, and less visibility. And then my third option, which would be global intelligence sharing and legal reform. The pros of that are coordinated prevention, strengths of international law, and then the cons of that would be relying on diplomatic cooperation and privacy concerns. And then after that leads to my conclusion. So based off of that whole analysis, I'm kind of leaning towards more of a hybrid approach, combining community-led de-radicalization with targeted international cooperation. So this model avoids the racial profiling and legal overreach of past policies while still allowing governments to share intelligence and prevent threats globally. It would involve funding local NGOs, partnering with faith leaders, and ensuring transparent oversight and working with IGOs like the UN for legal reforms. This policy protects both people's lives and their rights, and that balance is basically what's good with counterterrorism should be about. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that was informative and helpful. And then the last slide here are just the resources I used. I used one called Counterterrorism and Race, one called Counterterrorism Policy and the Political Process, and then the Economics of Counterterrorism, a survey. And they were all listed and linked into my slide that was also uploaded. But yeah, thank you so much.